What's up? It's just about that time of year again. I've got my 800 Crossfire here, and I rebuilt this sled, the entire top end, about 3 years ago now, and I wasn't going to do a video onto it, but I decided I will. And I just want to talk about a few things, show you a few things. So when I ordered the parts, I ordered all my stuff through Royal Distributing. I went with the Winderosa top end gasket set. I think it was around $100. And I went with the SPX Teflon molybdenum coated pistons, and I believe, I'm quite sure that these came with the bearings. Maybe they didn't. Anyway, I got everything through Royal Distributing. I actually got a part number here. That might be an old part number, but this is what I used. So it's freezing cold out here. I can't see real good, so I'm going to take these pistons in the house and I'm going to show you what happened to them and explain the reasons why you should do this before you actually blow something up or cause damage. So just give me a minute and I'll get in the house and get some light and show you what went on here. Okay, so the wife's at work. We got the kitchen table full of engine parts. Nobody tell her, please. Anyway, like any sledder, you usually got a spare engine in the basement, yada yada. So what I have here are the two pistons from my sled. And when I did this rebuild, my 800 Crossfire had, I believe it was 4,500 miles onto it. Now I've got 6,500. So safe to say, around 2,000 miles with these new pistons. And you know, I drive her pretty hard, so I gotta say these seem to be a pretty great product. I actually did a compression test the other day and it's still pulling 125 a cylinder, which is exactly what it was when I put them in there. So what I want to show you is here I have my parts engine from the basement. My cylinder head's off it. I bought this engine from my friend. This engine only had 2,000 miles onto it. And what I want to talk about is these factory pistons. There's trouble. And the trouble is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it for sure, but I'm sure you can see that little circle there. That circle is what you call a ring stop. So that means when the ring is on the piston, it has these two little teeth. Okay? One here and one here. And that little square that's notched out is where that ring stop is supposed to sit. And what that does is when your engine's revving high RPMs, it prevents the ring from free spinning around on the piston. And what'll happen is, if both of those line up, you'll have compression loss, which will cause issues. So, true as I'm sitting here, when I took my sled apart to rebuild it, and my sled was low in compression on the one side, this is what I found. This piston that didn't seem to have any issue, this side had, I believe, 110 pounds of compression. When I pulled it apart, the other side was 85. The ring stops are gone. And when I say gone, I mean they're gone. They are not there. They disappeared. And I honestly do not know how it didn't score up my cylinder heads because they had to have come off and blew out the exhaust, maybe somehow got up on top. No idea, but it happened. So as soon as I got it apart and seen that, I knew it wasn't just a matter of buying new rings. And honestly, the cat rings still don't look very bad for having, you know, just shy of 5,000 miles onto them. I wouldn't have condemned these rings at all. They're still fine. But that being said, obviously the new stuff came with new stuff. That's what you use. So this was my good side, but come to find out, what I thought was actually good, what wasn't so good, because the ring stop was gone. So it would have only been a matter of time before this free spun around and caught the other one and started causing issues. So this is the first piston out of my sled. We're going to set that aside. Right here is piston number 2. Now, I always use Arctic Cat Oil up until this point. Now I use the Shell Gold. It's just my preference. But what happened on this side was, not only did we lose the ring stop, okay, the ring stop is right there, but the ring gap is all the way over here. Not only is the ring gap all the way over there, but the top ring is completely seized and stuck. And believe you me, different times I played with this thing to try to get that off of there. And I'm sure if I really put some serious effort into it, I could, but needless to say, that ring is seized. It's missing, once again, that piston stop, or ring stop, sorry. And lo and behold, look at the bottom here. The ring's still on the bottom. And look, I can free spin that all around too, because that ring stop is gone. So, at 4,500 kilometers, or 4,500 miles rather, both pistons combination have 4 ring stops. I'm missing 3. There was only a piece of one left on the bottom side of that other piston. So this is an issue, because every time those buggers line up like this, you're going to lose compression and have blow by and all sorts of stuff. But that doesn't finish my topic on these pistons by no means. There's other issues too. As you can see right there perfectly, look at these fractures. See that black line? And see this line up here? I know the camera's showing it. Those are actually splits. So there's a split between the top ring and the top of the piston, and there's a split in the ringland. So if this was just one engine, one thing, I would say maybe this was a freak accident, but I've got 2 engines that I've personally taken apart. Now here's typical wear that you see. You can see these scuff marks on the piston skirt, and that's why the SPX ones put that Teflon coating on there. It's normal to see wear there at that high a mileage. Now, that's a little deeper than what I'd like to see it, but if you got a stuck ring... So, sorry there, my battery died. As I was saying, we got a couple issues here with the factory pistons in these engines. Now that being said, I mean, the sled will run and drive fine until they're down to about 80 pounds of compression. The trouble is, when you score up these cylinder heads, then you're out big money. This stuff, I mean, I'm sure prices went up a little bit now, but I don't think I was out any more than like $500 to refresh the whole top end of this with what I classify as better parts. Because clearly this was an issue. So piston 2 out of my sled, typical little bits of scuffs on the skirts, which obviously with the stuck ring will be a lot worse. Just to bring the first one back to verify what I said, as you can see, the skirts don't have near as much scuffing on them. Luckily, these new engines do use nickel sill cylinder heads, so side scuffing on the skirts usually won't cause any internal damage. You actually got to have metal on metal. But still, to my amazement, I do not know how it was able to spit those stops out and, you know, not cause any damage. Obviously, they didn't go on the bottom end, or that would have caused more issues. So now this brings me to the piston out of the parts motor that was blown up at just over 2,000 miles. And it was pretty disappointing because I actually talked my friend into buying this sled, and he did. And he was out on the trail, I believe his third trip, and the engine went out of it. Just up and died after a good hard rev. So this is catastrophic failure. And as you can see, it obviously made a few revolutions before it stopped because it beat some pretty good chunks out of the top of it. But here, once again, we've got a ring stop missing on the lower ring. And once again, if you turn the piston sideways, you can see the fractures. See, there's one there. There's some there. And it looks to me as though it fractured big time here. Possibly maybe it sucked something into it, but I mean, this guy, he kept his machine inside a garage and he kept his machine clean, so I'm probably ruling out dirt on this one, fellas. And when you have damage like this occur, you see how bad that piston is. There's what it did to the cylinder on that side. And there's what it did to the cylinder on that side. So you don't want to be in that boat. Luckily, like, I didn't buy this engine in running order. I bought the engine from him for parts because he put a new engine in, sold the sled, and offered me the old engine for cheap. And it's got full of parts. The other cylinder's A1, so I technically do still have a spare cylinder. So anyway, guys, if you own an F8, an M8, or a Crossfire 800 high output, I would highly suggest, for the small cost, and actually you can do the job right in the machine if you're, you know, good at not dropping parts. It was a little tricky doing the wrist pin clips, but other than that, not too bad. I did mine in the machine. So highly recommend the Quantum SPX or SPI, I believe they are now. With Royal, you've only got two decisions. You can get Wiseco or you can get these guys. These guys are cheaper. Not saying they're better, but my personal experience, I have no issues with them yet. And honestly, after 2,000 miles, if she goes kaboom, you know, it is what it is. It's sledding, boys. But seeing this many of these Arctic Cat pistons missing the ring stop and having the cracks on the top and in the middle, if I bought another one of these sleds, it would be the very first thing on my agenda would be to rebuild it, just because. That being said, they'll run like this, you know, sometimes a long time, and these motors have had a great performance and long life review, and they're an awesome working engine. It's kind of hard to switch to anything else once you drive one. So anyhow, thanks for watching the video. I appreciate it, guys. Please subscribe.